In the late 80s, early 90s came a new sound emerging from Bristol, United Kingdom. It was a time where breakbeats and house music were exploding, and Bristol in the UK, being the cultural hub that it is known for, became the grounds in which this melting pot genre was born, and that is called trip-hop. Direct influences stemming from soul, funk, electronic music, and hip-hop. Some of the two most profound names in trip-hop were Massive Attack and Portishead. But in the end of the day, this sound emerged from many featured artists and other musicians. What I'll attempt to do today is show you how I made a modern trip-hop inspired beat using the elements that I took away from studying the genre, something I've been quite into since the beginning of my beat-making journey. Alright, so this is the project file for this beat. I once again took the BPM from a reference track and borrowed it for this. As you can see, this is what we're working with. Most of the time when I make a beat, I am using this live screen up until the very end. That's when I shift over to the arrangement screen. That allows me to fine-tune the beat and add transitions and create an intro and bridge and whatever. For the sake of this video, I'm planning on showing you each layer as I added it in the beat. I wasn't messing around when I said I wanted to do trip hop, so I basically stole that Massive Attack drum pattern, which was actually a Les McCann sample. Oh yeah, real quick, right here are the 4 return effects that I choose to use every time I make a beat. I have 2 compressors that I can use for the drums and the other instruments. I have boombox preset that you can find in the audio effect rack. It's pretty good. You just send the drums to it and it adds a little bit of a punch. You can control the EQ in there. And I also have a reverb effect that I EQ out a little bit and custom tune per beat that I make. Before I get any further into the beat, I do want to point out what my master channel is looking like. Just look at the gain. Don't look at the plugins at the moment. They're all off. Look at what my gain is peaking at. I'm peaking at -6. That is active gain staging right there. That is me trying to preserve headroom with everything I can. And sometimes when I'm cooking up the beat, it can get out of hand and it'll go up a little bit like this. Like pretend where it's peaking right now is where it'd be when I'm cooking up. If I wanted that to go down, I would just turn all the channels down equally together at the same time until my master channel is peaking at that desired level. And that might not always be -6. I just like to live there. To get a solid foundation for this beat, I laid the drums down first. I loaded all the drum samples that I wanted to use into the Ableton drum rack and recorded my idea and then split them out individually into different channels. It's kind of a pain in the ass, but you'll get faster at it the more you do it. I added a couple more drum percussion sounds that were just one-shot samples. I just layered those up until I had a full drum kit. Adding those extra cymbals was important because I didn't want it to have just like a vinyl crunch sound. I needed it to have some high end, some vibrance, some twinkle, some charm. So right here, I am reinforcing the kick drum with a little bit of sub bass. This bass sound is actually a stock Ableton preset. That's what it sounds like by itself, but I just sat it down in the mix so it was filling out the low end every time the kick was hitting. On the drum group, I have a limiter keeping everything at around -8 decibels just so I know where it's at, and I also have an EQ boosting a little bit in the mid-range, giving it a little bit more chunk. And I also sent it out to one of my 1176 compressors to do a parallel compression, quote-unquote, New York compression style thing. It's super subtle. The drums were nice and thick and offered a great foundation to come up with some ideas. So I pulled up a piano and started riffing some ideas. In my mind, to get that trip hop sound, I wanted to just come up with a simple, repetitive loop. I think I got that. It sounds a little weird soloed because I have a sidechain compressor on it, and the kick drum is making it do that. In true Massive Attack fashion, I made a loop that was 6 bars, just like that song Teardrop on Mezzanine. I'd say it's pretty atypical to make loops of 6 bars these days, and playing around with that can give your beats and instrumentals a drastically different sound than what you normally may produce. And I also found that using 6-bar loops allows you to loop it at the 4-bar point, or at least have that option to do that. I don't know. You'll see in the arrangement process later on what I'm talking about. So right here was the entirety of the piano section. This idea is supposed to be repetitive, and as I add in more elements, the repetitiveness will serve as like a reference point. So to add a little bit of texture, I put this creepy crawly sound in real low at around like -20. This is what it sounds like all turned up. If I was to leave that in there really loud, it'd just be not right. But if I just put it at that low enough of a volume, it'll just tickle the brain. I chose to pick up the guitar for this section, and I was directly inspired by the sounds of reggae and rocksteady. I wasn't trying to be melodic or anything. I'm just acting as a sit-in rhythm section here. Real low in volume. That's kind of the theme here, keeping things low in volume. I added a second guitar, and this was playing something melodic, and this actually dictates the whole feel of the song, in my opinion, because of the notes and the scale that I'm choosing to play. Like, listen to this next note coming up here. That note adds so much tension and eeriness to the whole beat. In 2024, you can be really cheap and not have a guitar amp. I just played this direct through the interface using Ableton stock plugins arranged in a guitar rack. I found a video for this on YouTube, obviously. It's how I've learned most of everything. I'll actually link it in the description because it's hella clutch if you want to figure out how to get better guitar tone just using the free plugins that Ableton comes with. I put some additional effects on the lead guitar. This is without them, but I put a delay and also a filter on the lead guitar. What I was trying to do there is just get it to sit better in the mix and maybe even have a little bit of just a warmer tone, that's all. The same guitar preset is on both of the guitar channels. They're just slightly different. Like the lead has a fuzz pedal thing going on with it, and the rhythm guitar has more of a clean tone, just an overdriven sound. Oh yeah, another thing I forgot. It was muted, but this is just a snare drum, like a rim shot with heavy delay effect on it. Just doing that kind of ping pong effect. And that just, once again, adds more bounce, fills out some rhythmic voids. On the second level of my live screen here, I have started a variation on the loop that I was building, and that's where I added a bass guitar because I dropped out the sub bass and the kick for this section. This is the idea that I came up with using the Native Instruments Rickenbacker bass, is that what it's called? Yeah. Damn, Rickenbacker is like my dream bass. When I get the music bag, bro, you're gonna see me with one of these. The whole bass is made out of one solid piece of wood instead of two. That's insane. On the quest to fill out more space in the beat, I just grabbed another stock Ableton sound, which was like some dub chords, and I was able to fit that in. This is what they sound like soloed. You know, kind of stabby, kind of robbed of its high end, kind of not. All you gotta do is just tuck that over into the left ear with the panning, and bam, you've just achieved psychoacoustics. That's bound to trip someone out. Now it was time for a bridge section where I could also introduce a guitar solo. This is Spitfire Audio's BBC Symphony Orchestra plugin. After I played the MIDI notes, I bounced it to audio so I could just, in case I needed to mess around with it further, have it in audio form already. But this was composed in MIDI first. I split the notes of the chords between the different instruments and was able to create an inner dialogue between the string section, a call and response of sorts. I pulled up a Pultec EQ and just EQ'd the strings a little bit just to let them sit with enough mid-range and high-end, but not drown and take out from the low end. The most fun part of the whole beat to make was this guitar solo. It took a couple minutes to come up with, and I didn't end up using the whole recording, but this is basically what it sounds like. To me, the whole trip-hop genre is all about meddling together different elements of different styles of music to create one musical experience. The final element of the beat is something that I added after the arrangement process, so I'll explain it all as a whole right now. I decided to start the beat by just having the drums play for a couple bars. Now, remember the fact that I am building this beat on the 6-bar loop. Occasionally, as a variation, I'll just run 2 bars out of the 6 bars and then re-loop it after that, just to create a little bit of unpredictability in the arrangement, aka like a pre-chorus or a pre-verse, if you want to call it that. Oh yeah, scratches. This hasn't been popular since Slipknot was doing summer tours. I had to add mines, get you a couple scratch one-shots, and put them into a Ableton drum rack. I just came up with a random choppy rhythm and left it at that. In terms of effects processing, I filtered out the low end and gave it a little bit of a phaser and an echo, just to make it stand out and cut through the mix even at the low volume that it's at. I didn't really go crazy with automation. This is actually the only automation, just a little bit of reverb. It's super subtle right here because there's not a lot of signal going through it. Yeah, that's pretty much the whole arrangement and how I thought through the process of cooking up this beat. Now the only thing that's left is to get the beat to pop using a simple mastering chain. You can only get it to pop if you left a little bit of headroom. mastering chain, I have kind of like a stereo field shaper made by Waves, and then I have two universal audio plugins. One is the Pultec EQ, and next is a LA2A compressor. And lastly, it's going into Flatline, which is a limiter. And that's where I really smash the beat up using all that headroom that I preserved. And that is how I made a trip hop inspired beat. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and you got to see a little insight in new ways to make music.